So now we have this reflection on Martha and Mary according to the method of prayer of St. Ignatius, which is trying to visualize the scene that this gospel portrays, then to try and sort of listen to what the people who's in it, who's in the scene, what's happening in the scene, who's speaking to whom, and where do I fit into there, and can I just be in the room with the two women, or just be in the house, and somehow let the Spirit of Christ speak to me as it is now in my life. And so the prayer we ask for, the special grace, St. Ignatius says, is for a deeper knowledge of Jesus Christ, a more intimate knowledge, and that follows with a deeper love for him and a more generous following of his gospel. And that's the prayer we ask for. And so I'd like to read for you now this part of the Gospel of Luke, and it's chapter 10, and it's verses 38 to 42. As Jesus and his disciples went on their way, he came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary, who sat down at the feet of the Lord and listened to his teaching. Martha was upset over all the work she had to do. So she came and said, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to come and help me." The Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled over so many things, but just one is needed. Mary has chosen the right part, and it will not be taken away from her." So now just try and visualize a little whitewashed adobe house there with walls of whitened clay, with a sort of rush roof, and Jesus with some of his disciples comes to the door, and he knocks at the door, and it's open, and it's Martha. Obviously he knew her and she knew him, and so she welcomes him into the home. And her sister Mary just goes and shows Jesus a stool or whatever it is, and he sits on it, and she then sits by him at his feet. And she sort of monopolizes Jesus. And Martha, meanwhile, goes into the kitchen. Now, what a wonderful scene, how human that is. Sometimes you go to a cocktail party or any gathering and someone monopolizes, talks all the time. Or someone, picks someone at the party or in the room and sort of keeps them to themselves. And so it's so human there. And Jesus is looking at Mary and she's looking at him. So if you can just put yourself on a stool just in the one corner of the room and look at the Lord as you see him, and look at Mary, and just talk to him in your heart as she's talking to him. So it's a lovely scene of intimate communication between Jesus and Mary. It's the type of thing we want to have in our own prayer life. But the distractions are always there. And in this case, you hear a few pots being pushed over and a bit of noise coming from the kitchen. And there's poor Martha doing the ordinary work of preparing some meal for the couple. And she's frustrated. She feels out of it. The guests that she's welcomed has now been monopolized by Mary, and she's out doing the ordinary domestic household chores that most of us have to do every day. And she's doing them for Jesus. But she's human, and she calls out, "Lord, why am I in here doing all this work by myself? Tell Mary, my sister, to come and help me. How often we know what that's like. And so we're just a bit surprised. We're sitting in our corner and we hear this voice come out of the kitchen or the little place where she's working. And we just don't expect it. But Martha says it. And Jesus says to her, well, Martha, and he's beautifully so understanding, you're worried and concerned about so many things. And many of us are. Just think of all the things you want to do today, and all the things you did yesterday, and what you've got planned for tomorrow. And all the time, Jesus knows that, and he loves us in all that we do. So Jesus says that to Martha, fully understanding her predicament, he said, Mary has chosen the better part. Mary has chosen to stop for a moment from the busy concerns of life and just put herself in my presence. And that's what you and I are trying to do at this moment. Just taking time away from all the pursuits we normally have and put ourselves in the presence of Jesus. And that Jesus lives within us. It's the risen Jesus, not the Jesus that Martha and Mary saw, but ours is the spiritual risen Jesus who died upon the cross and rose and is with us now and can see us in the ordinariness of our lives. So we don't interpret that as saying, well, why can't I spend more time in prayer and less time doing the ordinary things of life that I have to do? Jesus is saying, just keep the balance. It's not a matter of one against the other. We all have to do our normal things, the tasks of our lives. But we do it in and through with him. And he, therefore, is always present to us. And he's there in all that we do. And everything that's in this gospel today has to be done. It's good to do. Mary, to just sit and listen, to talk. We need time to reflect. The busyness of the kitchen, we need time for the kitchen, or time for whatever we have to do. It's a lovely balance. And all that I suppose the gospel is saying, don't let the frenetic pace of your life dominate you. Take some time just to sit and try and find the Christ within you. Try and just spend a few minutes being with him in quiet, just as Mary did, and we'll do now. Just the last point of that is to see that in the case of Mary, Jesus was doing for her, he was talking to her or giving her all his attention. And his love was flowing into her as it was flowing into Martha. But Martha had things to do that had to be done. And that's the balance of life for us. All that he's saying is stop sometimes and just let me talk to you or be with you in a special way. He doesn't say don't do the normal things you have to do in your life. He's just asking for that little quiet time.